Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Planning Board meeting, May 8th, 2025. Join me in a salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting has been duly advertised according to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, known as the Sunshine Law. Notice of the 2025 annual meeting schedule has been provided to the officially designated newspapers, the Township Clerk, posted on the Township's website, and available at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex. Application documents have been made available on the Township's website at least 10 days in advance of the meeting. Complete application files are available in the Planning and Zoning Department for inspection in accordance with the public meeting notice. Can I have a roll call, please, of all board members and professionals?
Mr. Deb, Ms. Smith, Mr. Radowitz, Mr. Vitale, and currently Chair Sirachi are absent. Mr. Flagg?
Here.
Mr. Wagner?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Committeeman Lapani?
Present.
Mayor Chicarelli?
Here.
Vice Chair Peason?
Here.
Ms. Coyce?
Here.
Ms. Ball?
Here.
Ms. Bernstein? Mr. Mayhew?
Here.
And myself and the videographer are here.
Thank you. Consideration of meeting minutes, I see none. Moving on to consideration of resolutions. There is none. Planning Board business from the floor for matters not on the agenda. Anybody from the public would like to come forward and state any matters that are not on the agenda nor anything to do with warehousing, please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Anybody from the public? Okay. Seeing none, consideration of ordinances, none to consider. And moving on to the application of public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, before we get to that point, while we have 7 members of the board currently up, 6 members of the board currently up on the dais, the 7th member is necessary to go forward because he is the 5th member for the quorum for the hearing on the application. So I would ask that the board go into recess until the chair arrives, and then we can continue the meeting relative to the application.
Okay, anybody from the dais? Yeah. Okay, all right. We'll be in recess hopefully for not too long, and we'll figure our missing planning board member. Thank you. Okay, we're probably about 5 minutes away if any of the objectors and the applicant wants to set themselves up, and then we'll get going. We'll save a little time. Yeah.
Okay, you didn't.
Coming out of recess.
Nice to see you.
Same here. Evening, everyone. We're at a recess. Thanks for your patience. So,
Mr. Chairman, before you read the notification on the application for public hearing,
Yep.
I point out Mr. Smith and Mr. Flagg are ineligible to participate, but they are more than welcome to sit up here and entertain themselves. I also have a certification by absent board member examination of record / eligibility to vote from Robert Peason, who read the transcript for the April 3rd meeting, which means that he is eligible to participate, and with that, and with your appearance, we now have a quorum for tonight's hearing.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're moving to applications. Public hearing, Homestead Road LLC, file number 21-PB-25-MS/MSPV. Time of decision, May 31st of this year. And I'm not going to go read the entire thing. I think we all know, are familiar with the application. It's just all parties agreed that the application would continue from April 3rd. Oh, wait, that's not
Yeah.
right. Yep. With no testimony to May 8th of this evening without further notice. So with that, looks like we have our representatives all up, so I will allow everyone to introduce themselves.
Yes, good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Craig Genetti of the law firm Dave Pitney on behalf of the applicant Homestead Road LLC.
Brian Tarantino on behalf of SWAT, objector.
John Lanahan, objector number 4.
Scott Gross, objector number 2.
Lori Cleveland for the Sauerland Conservancy.
Mike Pissarro representing the Watershed Institute, objector number 1.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone, again. Mr. Bernstein, I'm going to let you kick this off.
When last we were here, and the reason we were put off was Mr. Dean was supposed to appear. Please note, no Mr. Dean. I'll have Mr. Giannetti address that issue.
Sure, good evening, Chairman. And unfortunately, Mr. Dean is unavailable this evening. Obviously, he provided direct rebuttal examination. He was cross-examined by the public, cross-examined by the objectors. There was some remaining cross-examination. He did have coverage, but unfortunately, Mr. Dean needs to be here for the cross-examination, not someone else from his office. So he's not available this evening. I advise Mr. Bernstein of that, as well as the objectors. Since the April 3rd meeting, we've also submitted response letters from Van Cleef Engineering and Dolan and Dean to the board professional review letters that were dated March 24th, and from Pannoni Associates, and just looking for in April 2nd from Mr. Coyce. These response letters are typical in these applications. This was a second, well, no, I'm sorry, not a second. This is one of several review letters. These were the latest version of review letters. The responses from Van Cleef and Dolan and Dean is not new evidentiary evidence. They're either responding point by point to the board professional review letters. And mind you, the review letters came after they had already testified for a second time, so it's not like they could have addressed it during their testimony. And either it's noting where we agree as a conditional approval to comply with something, whether we disagree of whether something's in the record or not, and them highlighting either in a report or in a plan where such information is located, or addressing the comment as testimony has already been provided as to that subject and providing a brief synopsis of what the testimony was. So we would like these documents admitted into the record. And then I guess that's to the board's discretion with Mr. Dean. I know June 5th was an available date. We can have him come back if there's any members of the public that still have questions for him for cross-examination.
As well as any member of the board.
As well as any member of the board.
I believe the objectors have comments and you have received, or they'll, at least 3 of them will address letters they sent to you or sent to the planning department in anticipation of this evening's meeting. Whichever one wants to go first.
This is Brian Tarantino. So if the reports only contain reminders of testimony that has been provided before,
then those reports are not necessary to be entered into evidence. If they contain analysis, new data, new expert analysis, which they do, then they are out of order. So, I mean, for instance, Mr. Dean's report has over 10 pages of new data that he's attached. So it's not just a rehash of what's been said before. So it's beyond the time that the applicant has for providing new testimony, new expert reports. It's out of order, and we object to the inclusion of them in the record.
Just to add to Brian's comment.
Mr. Lanahan, just for the record, acknowledge.
I'm sorry, objector number.
No, your name. You don't need
John Lanahan, objector number 4. Sorry about that. The challenge that I have also with the responses is I felt like I was on a treasure hunt. I couldn't find, in other words, I was being asked to go back and to verify the testimony with no references to the testimony. So my question, my challenge is, you know, the veracity of those statements as testified, per my testimony, as I testified. Now we're trying to go back over 3 years without the courtesy of a reference to, as I testified on July 23rd, 2023, on page 53 of the transcript, you'll see my testimony. Instead, I'm sitting here trying to go through both reports, trying to tie it back and forth, and it was very frustrating, leading to the end of the letter, when I felt that Mr. Ford mischaracterized Mr. Maskey's letter from way back in the beginning. So my challenge and my objection to the response is it's incomplete. And so that's kind of where I sit with it.
And if I might add, the first issue is that it's out of time, right? It's beyond the time that the applicant had to present its case. The second is that we're not being given an opportunity to cross-examine, and it's not direct testimony. So it would be contrary to the procedures that have been followed strictly by this board, that we don't allow reports without oral testimony and without the ability for direct oral testimony with cross-examination. So it would set a dangerous precedent, I think.
Mr. Gross.
My concerns are well summarized by Mr. Tarantino and Mr. Lanahan. I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
A brief response. Initially, these responses are not part of direct testimony and frankly are not for the objectors. They're for the board in addressing the board engineer's review letters. It's no different than if our engineer was sitting here and Mr. Mayhew was asking him those questions or points in his letter, and they were responding to it. And there was plenty of opportunity to do that. They've testified for multiple nights on multiple occasions and brought back on rebuttal where a lot of these issues could have been addressed.
So you're saying
Wait, Mr. Tarantino, I'm not done. With respect to it being out of time, again, this is not Mr. Tarantino's application. He doesn't pay the application fees, he doesn't pay the escrows, and he doesn't make up the rules. So any notion that it's out of time, when we get a review letter March 24th and another one April 2nd, and we respond within 2 or 3 weeks, that's not out of time. We're supposed to just let those letters sit when we disagree with a lot of the statements in there. So it's ridiculous, and there's no support for an argument that we're out of time. With respect to referencing transcript citations, first of all, almost a lot of it, for instance, the stream corridor, we spent a lot of time on the stream corridor, and what he highlighted in there is what we've talked about for a lot of things. Some of the stuff also references is where the board engineer indicated information is not addressed or information not provided. And it's either in stating in Appendix H, it's there, or on this sheet in the detail, it's there. Mr. Mayhew may disagree with that. But our engineer has a right to say, no, we disagree with you, we think it's here and here. Or there is again, even though it was in the board engineer's review letter, there was a planning comment about whether it was in line with the intensity. All Mr. Ford's letter is highlighting is, we disagree. Here's the coverage, here's the lot area, here, all factual information. Frankly, information that can't be disputed. It shouldn't be on us getting review letters after they've already testified for a second time, and should be fresh for most of the board members, I would think, the testimony provided by them on that, to have to, in a couple of weeks, go through the transcript after transcript and do the citation. We've testified to it, and they've highlighted what it is. They can argue in court when it goes to court, they didn't provide testimony on it, or they didn't do this, or they didn't do that. But to say it shouldn't be submitted to the record, and they should have an opportunity again to cross-examine, this board is bent over backwards to give the objectors and the public every opportunity to be heard. But they don't have the right to have ongoing questioning after questioning. Every subject in the response letters are topics that have been addressed at some point, and or are new questions from the board engineer on technical stuff that our engineer is responding and identifying where the information is. And we can argue whether Mr. Lanahan thinks or disagrees with our interpretation of the planner's statement, the prior board planner's statement in his prior review letter. But the fact is what the fact is of what was said in that letter. And we can argue here and we can argue in court how you interpret that. We have every right to highlight that and note that in the letter that that was said. So from our standpoint, these are responsive to review letters that were received after they testified. They should be reviewed by the board, considered by the board. They can take it for whatever it's worth or whatever they think it's worth, but it should be part of the record. And to bring back our witnesses to go through the same hamster cage of addressing topics that have already been addressed and then having to get cross-examined over again, we're going to be into next year, and we're not going to do that.
That's one thing I agree. We're not doing that until next year.
I mean, I guess if you, Mr. Giannetti's statement's really quite confusing, because if the reports that Mr. Dean and Mr. Ford provided are merely like across-the-table responses, informal, then they're not to be entered in. Informal communications wouldn't be put into the record. They're just informal, like, hey, I'm not sure that you have this right. If they are simply restating what has already been testified to, they also don't belong in the record. There's not just unlimited. You talk about unlimited opportunity to question. There's not unlimited opportunity to provide new reports. Just because the board engineer and the board planner produced an advice memorandum to the board doesn't grant the applicant the rights to produce more reports and have the board consider it. It's completely out of order. And if it's going to be allowed, then we would be allowed also to provide an analysis and response, because to Mr. Coyce's and Mr. Mayhew's reports. And we're trying to follow the rules that are laid down for us. We're not breaking the rules. So if you're going to allow it, then you would allow us to respond as well. But we think they shouldn't be allowed at all, because it's really contrary to the rules that have been set down, the procedures that you guys have stuck to really quite strictly, which we applaud.
It just, again, these are not expert reports. These are responses to board professional review letters. Even Mr. Dean notes what's appended to his report has been provided in prior reports, and it was specific information identified and requested by the board engineer.
That's not. It's all new data.
Mr. Bernstein,
Well,
you can help us sort this out, because
I wish to respectfully disagree with Mr. Giannetti that these are not, that Mr. Dean and Mr. Ford are not professional reports. because that belies the issue of why provide them in the first place. They are responses to Mr. Mayhew's last report, which is the board's expert. And I would also agree that the back and forth and the back and forth and the back and forth. But if Mr. Mayhew or Mr. Coyce wishes to give the board another report based on all that has gone on before the board starts to deliberate, I believe that that's well within the purview of the board to request, which doesn't then engender another round of reports from the applicant, the objectors, and anyone else for that matter. To the extent that the objectors have the right to cross-examine Mr. Dean, because I believe he's coming back at some point, that's up to them, I think, Mr. Chairman. And no one is asking from Mr. Giannetti to bring Mr. Ford back. I think Mr. Ford has taken his fill, et cetera, on both ends. But if Mr. Dean is here and the objectors have something related to what is in his last report, then I believe that's within their purview when he's here for the next hearing. But that's the sum and substance of the back and forth between the objectors and the applicants and their non-professional professionals. I'm sure Mr. Dean and Mr. Ford will be thrilled to find out, Mr. Giannetti, that they're not professionals. But I think that's the end. Now, does that prevent the board from asking Mr. Mayhew and Mr. Coyce for one last opinion letter? I don't believe it does, and it also doesn't engender another batch of responses and responses and responses back, because these gentlemen basically are providing you with professional, assuming they're both professionals, professional opinions.
Right.
But I would agree with everybody. I think, Mr. Chairman, where we are is Mr. Dean at the next meeting. If objectors have specific questions related to specific items in his report, let me finish, Mr. Tarantino.
Didn't say anything.
It's like being at home. I get to finish occasionally. That they can ask, but otherwise, we're done with examination and cross, because I believe at some point, the people out in the audience who have sat in those benches and deserve all kinds of credit for doing that alone, should have the opportunity to be heard. And then the 5 objectors can be heard. And if they want to read their letters into the record, they can do that again too. And Mr. Giannetti gets the last word. And then it's up to the board to decide what it wants to do with this application. And while I understand Mr. Giannetti's potential desire to torture Judge Menon with an appeal, we're not ready yet for that, and we're not there.
That only assumes a denial.
But,
That only assumes a denial.
no, I'm assuming it's a lawsuit, denial or approval, until otherwise. So the point is, Mr. Chairman, my recommendation to the board, since Mr. Dean is not here and Mr. Giannetti is about to ask for, I believe, an extension to another night for a meeting and an extension of the time of decision, that everybody understand that when that meeting happens, it's Mr. Dean, cross-examination, public examination. We're done with examinations, public comment, board comment, whatever, board professionals comment, and if Mr. Mayhew and/or Mr. Coyce wish to submit a supplemental last crack, their memo is it. And if Mr. Giannetti is not happy with that, he can add that to his litigation. Since everybody's talking about the litigation, well, sort of already exists right now. That's my recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
I mean, because I look at our professionals' letter or guidance or just their opinion, I kind of feel if they're going to supplement that, that's now giving credence to what's been submitted since our last hearing.
No, I would argue it's not giving credence. Applicant gets to put on his or her position. The board has the right to ask for its professionals to provide ostensibly a summary report as to everything they're going to do. I don't know if you're even going to get a summary report from at least one of them, and you may or may not get one from the other. But the fact is that, yeah, I believe, strangely enough, they get the last proverbial professional word on this.
Right, which we thought we had, but
Well,
Well,
I
yeah,
probably would
Chairman,
be-
just, and I'm fine with how you laid it out. And if you
Except-
want to have supplemental reports from professionals, that's fine. But just understand why we did what we did. Particularly the board engineer's review letter. It's the applicant shall provide, the applicant shall provide, the applicant shall do this, the applicant shall do that. So that's, we have to respond to
and
that.
if the applicant has his supplemental report, we'll deal with that. But I think we're also looking for Mr. Mayu and Mr. Coyce, as if they weren't here, to provide their professional recommendations regarding same to the board on how to deal with what they have reviewed of this application through the now 20-plus hearings that Judge Menon so loves to ask every time he sees us on a related case as to how many hearings there are.
Can I just ask a question, please, based on, just to follow up what Craig was saying, right? Excuse me, Mr. Genetti. So the review memos are addressed to the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the applicant sees that, it's their application and their desire to respond. So that I understand correctly, because I heard conversation before about then, our ability or right to respond to his response or even the review memorandum. Is there something that I'm missing about our ability to respond?
I would assume, Mr. Lanahan, that in your closing arguments,
Okay?
because neither of you are professional engineers or planners, nor are testifying as
Understood.
engineers or planners, that you have the right to summarize what you've heard, what you haven't heard, what you've seen, what you haven't seen, to concur or not concur with comments made by, for example, Mr. Dean and Mr. Ford in their latest letters. That's all well within your purview for closing arguments, and I had hoped to some extent that would happen. But the letters are what the letters are. The board is going to take everything that's presented to them and take it under advisement and award it, as I've heard too many times by people in black robes, award it the importance or the lack thereof it merits. I'm not.
So what I probably would be then asking, and I'm going to be speaking upon everyone else, but you guys can certainly disagree with me, but I would like, if our professionals are going to supplement their reports, I would like them to clearly state if they feel any portions of those submitted letters contain new information that wouldn't be appropriate, that hasn't already been presented.
And have them respond accordingly.
Well, just to be clear, for instance, in the review letter now, and Mr. Tarantino was complaining about the left turn sheets that are attached to, Mr. Mayhew specifically asked for that information. That's why it was provided. We don't need to provide testimony on it. He asked for the data. We provided it.
The letters were addressed to the board, so it was Mr. Mayhew's way of pointing out that
Mr.
that
Tarantino,
information was
you don't-
missing.
you don't know
And
what
so
review
it is,
letters
there
are.
is new information that Mr. Dean provided. So
And Mr. Tarantino, if you believe that is the case, in closing argument, you can close, among many things I'm sure you will say, that issue has either not been met, or the testimony is inappropriate, or you failed to put adequate testimony on the record, all of those items, because understand, if and when this, in Mr. Gianetti's wish, goes to Flemington, and the reason I say Flemington is that's where Judge Menon sits, and that's where he's hearing these, then he's going to be not reviewing the tape. He's going to review the transcripts and what's provided to him. So if you want it on the transcript, you need to put it on the transcript. And the best place to put it on the transcript is in closing argument, when and if we ever get there.
Well, do we have the right to do what the applicant did, which was hire an expert and have an expert write a
No, I think-
report?
No.
Why not?
We're
passed
we're
that.
past it.
Because you're not an applicant.
Weren't they passed? They were passed the time
No,
too.
Mr.
You can say that. There's no
Tarantino,
difference.
Why are we not passed?
The difference between you all, and if my recollection is correct, and it's fading, is we had this discussion 2 sessions ago, about which I advised you all that if you wanted to supplement the record with your own experts, you had the right to do so, and all I got was silence. So now, 2 sessions later, we don't have a change of heart. They're responding as the applicant has the right to do to the letters of the professionals. If you wish to get your people to respond in letter form, which frankly they should have done all along, it's up to the board whether they'll even consider those. That's your call. I think you're better served by putting it in the record on testimony as to your view of what occurred. As I said, I'll use the left turn example. If your belief is that they have not addressed the left turn issues that Mr. Mayu raised in his review letter, you have the right to state on the record why they didn't and how they didn't.
I guess I'm just pointing out that your admonishment to us that you reference, if you want to have an expert.
Because there is a difference, Mr. Tarantino. The difference is they're responding to the Mayu letter. You could have responded to the Mayu letter. Objectors chose not to respond to the Mayu letter or submit a response. You submitted a response to Mr. Gianetti's client's responses to the letter. The letter has been in the public domain now for a couple of weeks, and frankly, what you could have done is you could have submitted a letter disagreeing or raising issues Mr. Mayu raised. You can do that. It's just going to happen on closing argument and not on another round of reports and testimony, unless the board decides they're not going to take the advice, which they are more than willing not to take the advice of counsel.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but typically with most applications, there generally is conditions that allow us up to provide information or whatever that professionals request. So it's nothing out of the ordinary for something to be submitted after after a vote occurs as part of a condition.
It could be.
Could
But
be.
again,
Right.
I think, Mr. Chairman, the appropriate time is on closing argument.
Right. No, I would agree with that, but I'm also, again, with our professionals, I want their opinion in that guidance. If they decide to supplement, whether or not they feel something either addressed
Or not.
or not, whether they would have considered that new information that they would have liked to have cross-examined
Well,
the professional. Well, it'll help us because, again, it's a guidance. It'll help us decide whether or not something was submitted inappropriately.
whether or not you want more, not so much inappropriate.
Well, because I think that's what's here, and I don't think we're going to go line by line, point, what might be considered new or not. I'd rather our professionals provide that to us. And I see Mr. Mayhew. Turn the on button. Go ahead.
When would you like that?
Well, we got to decide before our next hearing, pick a date for that, so.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the recommendation for the next hearing is June 5th.
Are we going to
also
schedule a second date as
What?
well? Are we just going to do June 5th, or are we also going to try to put a second date on the calendar?
Well, I
The
think
only reason I'm
we-
asking is now
Yeah.
hitting the summer, and I know people are traveling, and if we don't think June 5th is a date we're all going to wrap up, I'd like to be able to put in my calendar the next date so that we don't all have
I think,
I'd appreciate that also.
set another date
I
thereafter?
just didn't know what the next, just given unless
the
the,
problem, just for everybody's edification, and unfortunately, I know the schedule better than I really should. The board has an important item it must address on June the 12th. There will be only one meeting in July for the board, and the board is currently looking at a remand hearing on another warehouse application that
You
night,
can't ask us.
of which I believe I have finally got the number of people I need to attend. After that, unless the board wants to have another meeting after July 10th, the board will not meet again until September, because you take August off, and I don't anticipate. I'm watching the screen flicker, I apologize. I don't believe this board is going to change its routine and decide to have August meetings. So if the people want a guarantee, then we're looking into September. Unless you do the July, a second meeting in July after the 10th.
Do we have, David, because it's on my calendar, like there is a placeholder for the 24th of July. I don't know if that's just a placeholder or was actually on the schedule.
That's usually a business meeting.
Correct.
Is,
That as a business meeting.
So the 3rd, the 10th, okay, were the only 2 July meetings?
I think you address the next meeting, and then if you wish to address the second meeting, that's your call. Or we wait until June.
We also have some, 2 applications were recently deemed complete with another one coming through, so we have to make sure that we're staying within the statutory timelines for them as
No,
well.
We're basically no longer going to have a night of this application all by itself anymore.
how long is the important matter on June 12th? Is that going to take a whole meeting?
Could. I don't know what the board's going to do. I don't want to give anybody any ideas that something is going to be able to be heard when we need you all to focus on a very important matter that has to be dealt with that night. And I would assume you may have questions, others may have questions, people may want answers. We'll see. But I am loath to put any application right now of this magnitude on for the night of the 12th. Now, there may be a reason to put another application on that night, but not of this magnitude.
So you got June 12th for one of the others, if they can do it, if it's small. Yeah, I mean, if it's a simple application, let's get them in.
I know we're going to have at least one application on the 5th other than this one.
I'm sorry?
We're going to have another application on the 5th other than this one? Or at least
On
a
the 5th?
visit? Are we not getting it?
Yes. I believe so. There's an application that has to come back from 6 months prior
Right, on the 5th.
on the 5th.
It's a return of the old campus associates.
Correct. Can we write that one?
But the proposal, I believe, is June 5th and the extension of the time of decision rule to July 31st.
We agree. What, so we got June 5th, and
That's it.
we'll figure it out on June 5th.
We're going to, I mean, realistically, I think we're looking
Yeah,
at September at this
We'd
point.
all like to wrap it up on June 5th, but I just,
Well, because
in
we
the
have,
interest of planning, I just
Well,
don't
let
want
me
to
put it
have.
this way. The board can wrap this all up. The board has until July 31st to deliberate and decide.
Does the
so
board, I'm sorry,
It'll be a public meeting, but at that point, once the matter is closed, testimony is closed, arguments are closed, the board can sit here and deliberate
to the 31st.
without any further comments from the public at that point.
So for those of us who are not familiar with these proceedings, we start on the 5th.
Mhm.
I know we usually try to wrap up by 10 o'clock, I believe. You like to quarter to 10? If we are in the process of wrapping up with public comment ends, objector starts, do we extend that just to get it done, or do we break and come back?
It's going to depend on what's going on. The board can extend it normally till 11.
What is the normal, what's the custom? Has the
Board
board
generally
extended
doesn't
before?
extend, but if the board senses, and I don't wish to speak, I don't want to sound like I'm speaking for the board, but the history in my involvement in this board is if the board believes they are close to a culmination, they will probably extend the matter to as long as possible.
So we go extra innings.
What?
We go extra innings?
They'll go extra
Man on second
extra
base
innings with a shadow runner on second.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I would like to think we can get it down June 5th, because as long as everyone's concise, particularly with the
one-
cross-examination and, you know. I
By the
mean,
way, Mr. Giannetti, no Mr. Dean, we move on.
I understand.
Right.
One thought I have, just for consideration, and it feels like they just turned the air conditioning on, so it's a little more comfortable now. If the board wants to entertain starting public comment tonight, we can bring Mr. Dean. Mr. Dean will be here on the 5th. If there's any questioning of him, that can happen. I don't think that's going to, I mean, he's testified a lot already and been cross-examined a lot. I don't think there's anything he's going to say that's going to change any member of the public's opinion. So if we want to start public comment, so that's one less thing we have to do on the 5th.
Problem becomes, and I'm not, is if they then want to come back because they've heard other things, et cetera.
I understand.
I mean, if there's
Just-
somebody who wants to come up and tells you that they have no intention of coming back, that's one thing. But I suspect most of these people will be back on June the 5th, and will have things to say.
Mr. Chairman, I will not be here on June 5th, so we have to make sure Ms. Smith is here.
Yep.
And everybody else. And I'll watch the videotape.
Well, we'll deal with that also. Your call, Mr. Chairman. What do you want to do with the public?
I'm game for it. I'm just going to urge the public to lay it all out now. We've had opportunities. I think everyone has heard Mr. Dean's testimony, so I'm not sure what extra he's going to be, that would raise questions in a cross-examination. I mean, it's going to be coming from the objectors, so I think.
Is it worthwhile, Kim, I'm going to ask this question. Is it worthwhile, or can you ask, is it on? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right.
Is it appropriate to ask the public if there's anybody interested in cross-examining Dolan
No.
Dean? No?
No.
No, because I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Why not?
Mike, can we say, if you speak public comment tonight, this is your opportunity to speak? If we don't, then we might be, if we're not going to do that, if they can come up again, then we might be wasting
I mean,
time.
I'm not going to have someone come up now and then another bite of the apple. So, we would have to almost take a roll call, and then if they've spoken, they would have to take a roll call as they speak, and then that name would be taken, so they would not be able to come up again after the fact. That would really, because otherwise, it's just extending
I agree.
comment.
I agree.
So
Right.
that's
And my concern is if we're even going to meet on the 5th, because now we don't have our buffer. So that's why I'm inclined that we have people here tonight, because I think what we're facing right now is even after June 5th, we're going to be deliberating in September. I'm just not seeing the calendar opening up.
Well, then if that's the case, Mr. Chairman, I would concur with Mr. Lapani's recommendation. Come up tonight, this is it.
their choice.
Their choice, they can come back, but
They can't speak.
can't speak.
Can you clarify that for us?
Okay.
if we speak tonight, we're done, even if Mr. Dean brings up something.
That's correct.
That's right. And
So we just don't speak tonight, wait until next time.
That's right.
Okay.
The point was for those who may not want to come back and just want to they've been coming to these meetings with wanted a chance to give their opinion, and then therefore they are not necessarily need to come back, and also would then speed up the next meeting when we get to public comment that person who has spoken has put their thoughts on the record. So I'll just ask, as a show of hands, is there anyone entertaining speaking tonight, or they all that would prefer to speak tonight instead of wait?
there you go.
Okay. There's only a few.
Okay.
So understand if you speak tonight, your name is going to be written down by our people so that you will not be able to speak again when we get to that point, as long as you understand that. There's like 3 names back there, okay?
All right. So, yes, do I have a motion to open to public for the proverbial final bite?
For the comments on the application as a whole, with the understanding and the conditions of coming before the board to make those statements, is that you will not be permitted to come back before the board at another time.
So moved.
Second.
Can I do it by acclamation? or-
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So if any members from the public want to put on the record their thoughts on this application, it's just statements, no questioning of anyone. Please state your name and address for the record, and also state if you're represented by any of the objectors.
Mr. Chairman, before anyone speaks, I just found another document. I just want to make sure for the record that Mr. Wagner has also submitted a certification from the April 3rd meeting. So he is also eligible? The short meeting. Thank you.
Gail Martin, Hillsborough Road. I'm not a member of SWAT, but I support what they do. I have a paper petition with 666 signatures against these warehouses. This is a grassroots project where we canvass the affected neighborhood door to door and explained the proposed warehouse application and asked if they'd like to sign the petition. The following is the text of the petition for the record.
Objection to inclusion of a signed petition to the record.
I think Ms. Martin can indicate that she spoke to a whole bunch of people, and this is with their opinions. I think, however, that the board can take, I hate this word, but I will, judicial notice that there is such a petition, but it is not part of the record for purposes of determining this application. So if she wants to give it to Mr. Coyce to keep for the purpose of the record, it will not be part of civic clerk, and it will not be part of the overall record. It'll be it'll be in the planning department office.
Right.
Will it be in the transcript?
Whatever you state.
The
No, I'm not reading the
656
name.
names and
No.
addresses for the record. If you wish to indicate what the petition says,
Yes.
you may do so with the understanding that it is what it is.
We, the undersigned, are opposed to the proposed warehouse facilities to be built on Homestead Road, Block 200.10, lots 32 and 33. The developer, Homestead Road LLC, plans to build 2 mega-sized warehouses totaling more than 500,000 square feet, the size of 9 football fields, and a 6,000 square foot office building. The larger 368,995 square foot warehouse would have 60 loading docks, spaces for 150 trailers, and 188 other parking spaces. The smaller 168,304 square foot warehouse would have 30 loading docks, parking for 62 trailers, and 96 other parking spaces. That is 90 loading docks and overall space for almost 500 trucks and truck trailers. We are concerned that this will result in noise and light pollution, traffic, decreased property values, road deterioration, and or other possible issues affecting nearby communities and residences. TECD, Transitional Economic Development, should be rezoned to AG, Agricultural. That's the end of the text of this petition. If this application is approved, do not think you will not be affected by any of this. No, I said this is my statement.
Following comments are yours.
The following comments are mine.
Thank you.
If this application is approved, do not think you will not be affected by any of this. Trucks will be traveling throughout our neighborhoods, including the proposed Main Street area. Traffic, air, and noise pollution and road maintenance will be increased. When the ordinance for Willow Road weight restriction was approved, Mayor Lapani stated, and I quote, "It's really about what is coming into Hillsborough, and this is our way to try and keep our residential neighborhoods residential. If this application is approved, our residential roads will not be residential. There will be trucks everywhere like mosquitoes. I have attended all the planning board meetings over the last 3 years for this application and have seen many flaws. As Mr. Lapani stated at one of the warehouse meetings, the planning board is here to make sure it meets the scope of what they feel is good planning for Hillsborough, what is good for the residents, and what is good for the property owner. This warehouse application is not good for Hillsborough or the residents. It is only good for the applicant who lives in Florida and does not care about living near this warehouse and the damage they leave behind. The applicant has not submitted a noise report. Since the truck parking spaces and loading docks are facing the residential area, the noise from trucks being loaded and unloaded, backup alarms, and truck idling will be overwhelming to the residents, especially if it operates 24/7. They will never get a good night's sleep. What other reports are missing from this application? Since its application is for a spec warehouse, doesn't this invalidate any information on traffic, operations, noise, and light and air pollution, since we do not know who the tenant is? At one of the meetings, the representative for the applicant stated these warehouses will not be used as a parcel delivery hub, sort fulfillment center, and a transload warehouse. Since they know what is not going to be, they must know what it is going to be. After further questioning by the planning board, the representative could not clearly say what these warehouses will be used for. At the December 8th, 2022 planning board meeting, a resident asked Mr. Ogrodnik, "Is this still an application without knowing the tenant?" The answer was, and I quote, "I'm not sure I would characterize it that way." What is going on? According to Mr. Bernstein, Hillsborough does not provide for spec warehousing. Why are we here? This warehouse belongs in an industrial park near major highways, not on Homestead Road, across from 1,000-plus acres of farmland, open space, and residential areas. It is a 2-lane road with no shoulders and the main access road to the high school from the east side of town. You will have inexperienced drivers traveling this road and maneuvering around tractor trailers. It is an accident waiting to happen. It is not safe, and Hillsborough does not have the infrastructure. On February 15, 2008, the township officials strengthened the community impact requirements in Hillsborough. Committeeman Carl Sirachi, the sponsor of the original impact statement, said, and I quote, "It is vital to ensure that any significant housing or commercial developments proposed for Hillsborough are thoroughly reviewed for their potential future impact on the community and taxpayers. These warehouses will have a major negative impact on our community and taxpayers. In closing, I would like to direct your attention to the taxpayers, voters, residents that are in attendance this evening and the others that signed this petition that could not be here tonight. This is your community impact statement. I'm submitting the original petition and signatures to the planning board. If these warehouses are approved, Hillsborough will no longer be able to use the tagline, "One of the best places to live in America," and removed from the list as one of the top 5 destinations of the year. Do the right thing and deny this application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm a little taller than she was. My name is Joe O'Connell, and I live on White Meadow Road. My house is almost 250 years old, and like Hillsborough, has seen a lot of changes in that time. Some of the changes have been good, such as, in my opinion, the additions and maintenance to my house, since it was a small 4-room house. But some of these changes are much trickier. The TECD zone is supposed to be neighborhood friendly, but this project is much larger and much more industrial than anything in the adjacent light industrial area and is anything but neighborhood friendly. Due to the topography of the area, everything, including floodwaters, noise, odors, and diesel fumes, flow north, down from the homestead property, and it permeates the entire area for extended periods of time. This was evidenced by the past practice of a noxious substance being spread on the farm fields in the 1980s and the 1990s that was the cause of complaints to the township by neighbors on Spring Valley, Winding Way, and even the far end of Valinor. White Meadow Road and Toll Brothers houses were not yet built. The odor lasted for days on end. I couldn't be out in my yard. The stench was so bad. My home lies in sort of a depression surrounded by trees, and the odors linger for days. Every time my neighbors have a barbecue or light a fire pit or have fireworks, the smoke accumulates in my front yard. The same thing will happen with the diesel fumes from the warehouses. It will make the air around my house intolerable. Noise from the backup beeping and lights from the intense 24/7 operations will disrupt the peace and quiet all night long. Homestead Road is a narrow country road with no shoulders. It is practically guaranteed that with the hundreds of daily trips from trucks entering and leaving the facilities, the trucks will cross the center line into oncoming traffic. At this point right now, the only legal direction for the trucks to travel is over a very steep, site-restricted hill across a narrow bridge leading into what has been designated as part of the town's center, which endeavors to be a pedestrian-friendly zone. Or they could go to Willow Road, which is weight-restricted and would be a violation of the law. How would this be enforced? Would the trucks go that way anyway and just accept the tickets given to them if they were caught? And I bet you that they're going to try and just figure that they're not going to get caught. Several properties adjacent to mine have conservation easements on their property. There is a reason for this. Van Cleef knew exactly what they were doing when they did the surveying for the work the developer of White Meadow Road houses. And I was very involved in that. I've lived in my house for over 45 years, so I know exactly what they were doing. They had consultations with me. I was with the board and all that stuff. Okay, just like with this warehouse property, there is a direct connection between our properties and the river that runs alongside Clerico Lane. I have personally witnessed this conservation easement become a flash flood river flowing through my front yard, spanning 60 to 70 feet wide and 2 to 3 feet deep as it travels towards the farm on the far end of Clerico Lane. This is the end that used to be Angelo Clerico's farm. Building this huge structure will also add to the flooding issues of the Royce Brook as it flows through Clerico Lane. During Hurricane Ida, the flooding that occurred on Amwell Road because of this geographic feature took the life of one woman and almost cost another family their lives, except for the fact that they decided to get out of their car in the pouring rain and walking to Pheasants Landing instead of staying with their car. Their car was found the next day, 1,500 feet away, dragged towards the Royce Brook, fully encrusted with mud and water. Through the Oprah Act, I compiled a list of 64 cars in this area that were left abandoned and flooded by Hurricane Ida, and there were another estimated 30 to 40 vehicles left in the parking lot of Pheasants Landing that night. I realize they only call it the landing now. This application also does not include the sidewalks and bike lanes that connect to the adjoining residential neighborhoods as required by the TZ zone. It is not neighborhood friendly. It does not fit the TECD zoning requirements. We need to be good, responsible ancestors doing what's right for Hillsborough, not just for the next 20 years, but for the next 250-plus years. I'm hoping my house will be there. I don't think I will be, but thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Nestor Pla, 18 Stagecoach Way, here in Hillsborough. Board members.
Oh, sorry, just state if you're not affiliated.
Yeah, I'm not affiliated, I'm just
Okay.
here to comment.
Okay.
Sure, it's Nestor, and the last name is Pla, P-L-A. Okay. I'm against the warehouse on Homestead Road because my family and I deserve better. My wife is a realtor, and the night that I met her 14 years ago, she said that she wanted to live in Hillsborough. I asked her why, and she said, because it's a great place to live. We moved from Morris County 4 years ago after finding the perfect house in a quiet section of Hillsborough to raise our family. I am very familiar with the trucking industry. I just retired this past April as a sergeant first class from the New Jersey State Police. I was the assistant unit head of the Commercial Carrier Safety Inspection Unit. The unit covers the entire state of New Jersey. During my 24-year career, that included 20 years of specialized enforcement of the federal regulations that govern the trucking industry, Title 49, I have stopped and inspected thousands of trucks and drivers. Due to my extensive knowledge and experience, I want the board to hear my concerns. Number one, if the proposed warehouse was to open, we can expect heavy truck traffic 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Commerce never stops. Noise and traffic will disturb the residents, and once you let the trucks in, nobody can stop them. Truck traffic will never stop. Number two, truck drivers make money when the wheels on their trucks turn. They will not follow restricted roadway signs because they would rather face a fine rather than be late with their delivery. If police happen to stop them, for example, on Willow Road, they will say that they did not know that the road was weight restricted. Some go as far as knocking down weight restriction signs so that they can say that there are no signs with weight restrictions on them. Some will simply ignore the signs because they know that police cannot stop all the trucks. Some will get through. They take their chance and break the law and not get caught. Why? Because they make money when the wheels turn. Number three, hours of service. Truck drivers have mandated resting periods that they must follow. These restrictions are listed in Part 395 of Title 49 of the Code of Federal Regulations. Those regulations can only be enforced by New Jersey state troopers that are trained and certified to conduct federal inspections. Most truck drivers must use an electronic logging device to capture their movements. Because of that, when they run out of time to drive, they will park wherever they are to avoid being in violation of the federal law. They will park on side roads, even if those roads are restricted, because they would rather get a parking ticket than receive a federal violation for hours of service. Again, a violation that only a federally certified state trooper can issue. So unless Hillsborough is able to bring the state police, there will be no enforcement of these violations. Number four, noise. Truck drivers say their wear and tear on their brakes by using their engine to slow down. The engine brake, known as the Jake brake, uses the engine compression to slow down the truck. The activation of the engine brake causes a deafening noise. As trucks will come down Homestead Road over the railroad bridge, they will likely activate their engine brake prior to entering the warehouse, causing noise pollution to everyone living in the area of Willow Road, White Meadow, and Winding Way, to name a few of the impacted areas. Number five, truck traffic on Route 206 will be heavily impacted. Trucks start and slow much slower than passenger vehicles. This will increase the time spent on 206. Route 206 is often backed up. The increase in truck traffic will make driving Route 206 a nightmare, especially during rush hour. I am making all these statements not because I think these problems will happen, but because after 24 years working as a New Jersey state trooper, I have seen all of these issues across the state, and I know they will happen on Homestead Road and the rest of the township if this application is approved. In closing, I also want to mention that my understanding of municipal land use law is that the applicant has the responsibility to present to the board the evidence necessary for you to decide whether this application is approved, meaning the applicant has the burden of proof to convince the planning board to act favorably towards it. Based on all of the testimony presented and cross-examination of the applicant's experts and objectors, the facts, witness testimony, I believe the applicant has failed to meet the burden of proof, and I therefore ask the planning board to deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Candy Meyer. I'm from Fairfield Lane, and I am not represented by any of the objectors. And I'm having a difficulty time in seeing how this applicant, the buildings proposed, are consistent with the TECD zoning. And in particular, I have found up what I think is called code, but it's 188-1072. And it describes the transitional economic development zoning for Hillsborough Township. Under Section C, it says permitted accessory uses and structures. Item 9 under there says loading areas which are fully screened such that the screening material are compatible with the structure to which it is associated. I don't recall having heard anything in any of the testimony regarding the loading areas and how they were going to be fully screened and what material is screening that. The other item that I have pulled out is under Section F. It says supplemental requirements to TEC district. And item 1 says the site building structures and building placement and orientation. So building and site improvements shall be designed to minimize changes to existing topography and mature vegetation. And I do recall in a testimony, and I think I have the numbers down correctly, something about 2,075 linear feet of retaining walls. And I certainly, from my understanding, with a building that is the size of 9 football fields, I don't see how that is fitting in the existing topography and minimizing interruption to it. So I then wanted to point that out. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ina Sieve River, 24 Tally Ho Trail. I'm not represented by the objectors. INA. It's my first name.
Your last name?
Sieve River.
Can you spell that one?
SIV River. Can I proceed? Okay. I hear this opinion that because we all buy online, we should not complain about warehouses. First, there is already a huge warehouse just 15 minutes away from here in Somerset, New Jersey. That warehouse is located a couple of minutes drive from a major highway, Route 287. Certain projects belong into certain areas. A huge warehouse doesn't belong in the middle of a town next to residential area and between 2 schools. We are all using electricity daily, but I don't see a nuclear power plant in the middle of Hillsborough. So this saying that if we buy a lot online, that means that we have to have a warehouse in Hillsborough, I don't think it's relevant. A mega warehouse should be in an appropriate location. We've been through a long process of listening to the testimonies of the experts from both sides, clients and objectors. However, some of the experts of the objectors were met with a very aggressive attitude from the client's attorney, Mr. Giannetti, who tried to minimize the impact of their reports. He went as far as being plain rude, trying to sabotage testimony. You can watch this in the past videos. But if we look at the client's reports, first, noise report. There is no noise report. or study. Really, for the warehouse that is operating 24/7, has 90 loading docks and 104 parking space for trailers, the closest house is 90 feet from the warehouse fence, and there is no noise report. Who is going to be held responsible when noises, especially during nights, weekends, and holidays, will make the normal life of the nearby neighborhoods impossible? Who will be responsible for that? Not the experts, not the clients, and the damage will be irreversible. By the way, when asked if it was considered to rotate the building in such a way so the loading docks face the street and not the residential neighborhood, the answer was no. So they didn't even think about it. This is a clear indication that the applicant didn't give any consideration to the impact on the neighbors. 2, traffic report. With no tenant, the traffic report is an estimate. The warehouse that is operating 24/7 has 90 loading docks and 104 parking spaces, can generate enormous amounts of traffic. What about air pollution from all this diesel exhaust? Who is going to be held responsible for ruined roads that will need fixing using our tax money? Who is going to be responsible then when we have huge traffic on Route 206 and accidents with tractor trailer? Not the experts and not the client, and the damage will be irreversible. Flooding. The warehouse will create many impervious areas, and we get more and more crazy rains. During Hurricane Ida, 1 person died from flooding near the intersection of Willow and Enville Road. This development would increase impervious coverage by nearly 1 million square feet. Who is going to be responsible when the nearby neighborhoods will be flooded even more? Not the experts, not the client, and the damage will be irreversible. Job creation. Modern warehouses are highly automated and might not create many new jobs. So, in conclusion, all those experts from the client, they are not responsible for anything. The client is not responsible for anything. We will have to deal with all the consequences. This warehouse is a wrong building in a wrong place. This area is supposed to be a transitional between the existing light industrial and residential. This warehouse, if built, will be a transition to hell. We have a lot to lose and very little to gain. Therefore, I ask Planning Board to deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Chris Dawson, Hunt Club Road. I'm not with the objectors. Homestead Road wasn't constructed for sustained tractor-trailer traffic. I don't want my taxes, I don't think anyone here wants their taxes, to be used for road repair by the damage that's going to be caused by the tractor-trailers that are coming out of this warehouse. My question is, can Homestead LLC post a road bond to pay for future road repair? The traffic study, that was limited to Homestead Road. In my opinion, the scope of the study was insufficient. Traffic will definitely be impacted on Route 206. The trucks can't easily access the byway. Willow Road and 206 are the only possible exits from Homestead Road. And then lastly, while the 4,000-pound weight restriction on Willow Road was created with good intention, it's unenforceable. Unless there's traffic enforcement unit there patrolling Willow Road 24/7. Last week, I watched a tractor trailer turn onto Willow from Homestead. The truck wasn't pulled over, wasn't ticketed. 4,000 pounds. Amazon delivery trucks weigh more than 4,000 pounds. Landscaping trailers weigh more than 4,000 pounds. SUVs weigh more than 4,000 pounds. School buses weigh more than 4,000 pounds. It is a pointless restriction. That's it.
Good evening. Jim Vonderhorst, I'll spell that. V as in Victor, O, N as in Nancy, D as in David, E-R-H-O-R-S-T. 88 Weber Ave, Hillsborough. SWAT does not represent me. I've been a resident of Hillsborough for about 17 years now, and I appreciate the time you're able to give me the time tonight to talk about what I think is the largest of the warehouses that we've been looking at over the last 3 years. I have attended most of those meetings over the last 3 years, and this is the warehouse that scares me the most. I agree with all of the issues that my fellow residents have brought up. However, I think there's one, Ina, I think, mentioned it a little bit, but I think there's one that's really critical, and that's the issue of the enormous impact of hundreds, if not thousands, of diesel truck trips every week on the health of both adults and children in the surrounding community of the proposed warehouse. The applicant did produce an air quality report dated August 31st, 2022, claiming minimal impact from diesel fumes. However, this report was based on a single monitoring station in Camden, New Jersey, and another in Trenton, but doesn't take into account the logistics of this neighborhood. In July of 2023, Consumer Reports, in partnership with the Environmental Defense Fund, issued their first of 5 investigative reports focusing on the dangers of warehouse truck air pollution. Their studies encompass the use of multiple monitoring stations, not 1 or 2, but multiple, on a 24/7 basis. And guess where they put them? In the neighborhoods close to the warehouse. The study states that residents in proximity of warehouses suffer higher levels of serious health problems caused by the emissions of tractor trailers. There are 5 key findings. The first, exposure to traffic-related air pollution, as measured by nitrogen dioxide, increases the risk of the development of childhood asthma. And guess what's the leading cause of missed school days every year? Asthma. Air pollution from trucks. Number 2, air pollution from trucks raises the risk of preterm birth and low birth rate. Number 3, for adults, air pollution from trucks increases the risk of dementia, heart disease, and stroke. Diesel trucks. Number 4, diesel trucks also emit other health-harming pollution, including fine particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, carbon monoxide, and sulfur dioxide. And the last finding, diesel trucks emit serious pollution at startups while idling and traveling at low speeds. In conclusion, I love Hillsborough. Been here 17 years now. It's a great town, and I applaud both previous generations of management as well as the existing boards about everything you've done to try to make Hillsborough the best place to live in America. I urge you to continue to live up to that and to deny this application. Thank you.
Mr. Bernstein, I'd just like to place my objection on the record to reference in the record of an expert report that was not submitted to the board and no testimony provided on.
Noted.
Suni Bolar, 47 Winding Way, Hillsborough, not a member of SWAT. My property is the immediate property next to the proposed warehouse at 189 Homestead Road, separated it from it by Royce Brook. I'm very concerned about the deadly impact this warehouse will have on my home and property. During Tropical Storm Ida in September 2021, my basement got flooded. A new water heater that had just been installed and had not even been inspected had to be replaced. I applied for a FEMA loan for the flooding damages in my basement. Whenever it rains a lot, the meadow on my property always gets flooded. It's almost knee-deep in water. So with this proposed warehouse and the extra flow of water that it's going to generate, I can just imagine that Royce Brook will flood onto my property, and my home and the homes on Winding Way will go underwater. I'm also concerned about the extreme noise pollution this proposed warehouse will generate. When this proposed warehouse site was rented out, there was the constant noise of trucks operating all day long. It was pretty deafening just to be in my backyard. With so many loading docks facing the homes on Winding Way, the noise pollution will be 100-fold more. So I'm kind of worried that I won't be able to sleep at night. This proposed warehouse site is so high as compared to my property. There's like a 120-foot gradient with this warehouse being on the top of the hill and my home being at the base of that hill. Considering this huge gradient and adding to that a 4-story high structure with even higher walls and lighting, my backyard's going to look like a lit football field at night, and I'm not okay with that. I moved from New York to New Jersey to escape the noise, smoke, and the light pollution. And I bought this home in Hillsborough as it's one of the best places to live in the country. This proposed warehouse in no way conforms to the TECD zone requirements, as its planning has given no consideration to the homes on Winding Way, whose lives will be impacted by the flooding and by the noise, smoke, and light pollution. Why were in the loading docks facing Homestead Road? Why are they facing the homes on Winding Way? My backyard is a beautiful habitat for wildlife and birds. As an avid birder, I have recorded 68 species of birds on my property, including bald eagles. The most recent visit by a bald eagle was on March 30th, and I have a video of it, which I posted on the Hillsborough Public Forum, Facebook forum. This proposed warehouse construction will result in habitat destruction for wildlife and many species due to deforestation. Hillsborough is in a flood zone, and one life has already been lost due to Royce Brook flooding during Tropical Storm Ida. You can prevent the loss of more lives and more homes by voting against this proposed warehouse. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Sprovieri, live on Homestead Road and have a house in Montgomery. Just a little bit of history.
Can you just say for the record if you're affiliated with any of the objectors?
I'm sorry?
Can you state for the record whether you're affiliated with any of the objectors?
I'm sorry.
Whether you're affiliated with any of the objectors, like SWAT or...
No, I am not. Just wanted to give a tiny bit of history. Years ago, when there were toxic dump sites, or ash dump sites rather, some toxic, some not toxic, they were being considered in Hillsborough and Montgomery. I was part of a civic group called Refuse. We talked to each of the municipalities in Somerset County about our concerns about the possibility of the dump sites that were made necessary because of state mandate. We went to each of the towns. In this particular town, Biondi was the mayor at the time. His number one concern was not the dump site because it was not toxic, but the trucking and the traffic that was going to come through the town and in this particular area. The roads simply could not handle it in his eyes, and he was right. Since then, we've built our concerns around the traffic. Recently, or not recently, but a few years ago, we took care of part of that, alleviated it somewhat with the bypass. The amount of trucks that are about to possibly come in to this warehouse is going to supersede anything we've ever done to alleviate the traffic. We're talking about, I think it is, 90 bays. 90 bays, how much traffic can that generate? Much more than this community can handle. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? There we go.
Tara Baldwin, 36 Franklin Drive. I'm not affiliated with any of the objectors on this application. I have some questions questions for Gary Dean that I was planning to ask him tonight. I am unable to attend the June 5th meeting. The questions I have for Mr. Dean relate to the proximity of the sites used by Mr. Dean as a basis in his analysis. None of the sites used in Mr. Dean's analysis are located as remotely from an interstate as this Homestead Road site. For example, 10 Knox Drive, cited in his report, is less than 1 mile from 287, and traffic flows through an industrial area. Homestead Road is more than 10 miles from 287, and traffic must travel through residential areas to get there. In fact, none of the sites used in the Dean report require tractor trailers to travel through residential neighborhoods to reach an interstate. These may be details that Mr. Dean did not feel are relevant when he prepared his analysis, but these trucks will be traveling past my street, where my son will eventually learn to ride his bike, and it's very relevant to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tui Ann Lay for Ivy Lane. I'm not affiliated with any of the objectors, and I'm not going to repeat what other people said. I truly appreciate the amount of time that people who are committed to this township have for all these committees, the planning board included. What I wanted to point out was that when you go to the building department, there's a sign, first there's 100 best places to live in Hillsborough, but right underneath it, it says, attention, incomplete applications will not be accepted. And you have heard tonight, and you've heard for 3 years, how incomplete this application has been. You can tell from when it hasn't met some of the zoning requirements in the TECD zone, as well as some of our ordinances, and I don't see why a professional developer or someone who's represented by Mr. Giannetti would be allowed to even submit such an application. Thank you for your time. And I had a prepared speech. I'm leaving it for the next meeting. Oh, you can't? Oh. Okay, then I'll get it. But
So you came in late after the announcement was made, so I'll let the chairman tell you.
Yeah, so because we're going to need to continue June 5th, there was a decision because we still have Mr. Dean has to return for a cross-exam, that we're giving the public that came tonight the chance to offer their opinion tonight, but not June 5th, so that we can maintain. Anyone, right, can't come in. So if you've got your speech, go get it.
No, actually,
Okay.
a lot of it really has been said by many of the residents here. So I just want to say that because we have a caring community, all these people keep showing up, meeting after meeting, as well as you, and I think that as a resident here for 30-something years, 34 years or so, I'm proud of living in Hillsborough too, and I know that the weight of your decision is a heavy one. I know that as a former Board of Ed member, it's something that you have to take into consideration many factors. When my compass, when I was on the Board of Ed, was what's good for the students, and so I ask you, when you vote, to please consider what's good for the residents, because they've all spoken so clearly what the problem is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bob Hollingshead, 31 Winding Way. I'm going to skip over the railroad bridge. We heard about how narrow that is.
Mr. Hollingshead, just state for the record, you're not affiliated.
No,
with
I
them.
don't know anybody here.
All right.
Pick the mic up a little bit, too. Okay, Winding Way and Spring Valley Drive are on wells. I don't know if everybody knows that. And there's a contaminated well in the site and an old landfill in the southeast corner of the property that no one knows what might be in it. was done years and years ago. When the ground is disturbed, any contamination could seep into the groundwater and get into our wells. I'm going to reiterate the turning of the building, Mr. Mayhew's idea. And I'll go to the transition. The two buildings have a total of 537,299 square feet. A typical footprint of Winding Way house is under 2,000 square feet. So that means that 268 of our houses would fit in these two buildings. 268. Just in general, the tenant or tenant is not known. So how is it possible for the applicant to predict traffic, hours of operation, number of trucks, or anything with any accuracy? As far as buffering from the neighborhood, if you stand on Spring Valley Drive, you can see all the way to Homestead Road. It's not possible to shield the neighborhood because plantings are not permitted on the 172-foot wide pipeline right-of-way. Also, the building is going to be roughly 70 feet above grade on Winding Way, and you add another 25 for lights, we're going to have lights like 100 feet tall. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
I want to ask a question, if I may, which is, how is this David Brook, I live in Hillsborough, and as I've told you before, I would never be part of an organization that would have me as a member. So,
Thank you, Groucho Marx.
but I'm not speaking because I have something to say, but what is the plan here? You're going to go forward with the hearing again, and then you're going to open it back up to everybody else who hasn't spoken tonight?
Right.
And that's going to be June 5th, I'm understanding? Okay.
Correct.
All right. I'm not here. Thank you.
You get up to the microphone.
I'll let you object on the 5th. Anyone? Okay. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there were a couple of items to be concluded relative to a question that Mr. Mayhew actually had raised relative to any additional report. If the board is so inclined to entertain a last report from Mr. Mayhew or Mr. Coyce, and the objectors relative to the limited issue relative to comments as to Mr. Mayhew's report themselves, not to Mr. Dean, not to Mr. Ford, Mr. Mayhew, or Mr. Coyce's other reports. They are all due by the close of business Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. That's basically a little more than 10 days, but because of the Memorial Day weekend and related items. No more reports from Mr. Giannetti or his client. I'm sure he and his client will be thrilled not to have to spend any more money on any more reports. With that, Mr. Chairman, with the understanding that anyone who has gotten up and spoken, with the exception of Mr. Brook, will not be allowed to get up and speak at the June 5th meeting for the public portion. Mr. Dean will be here. The board has another application before we get to Homestead Road, or at least an update. And there needs to be a motion to extend this meeting to Thursday, June 5th, 2025, at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter, as the matter may be heard, without further notice, Time of decision extended to July 31st, 2025.
Okay, with that, anyone like to make the motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll second.
You might as well, because you're not going to be here, so. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Wagner. Yes. Committeeman Lapani.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor, Mayor Ciccarelli.
Yes.
Vice Chair Peason.
Yes.
Chair Sarachi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before you adjourn, I want to place on the record and remind the board members who I have spoken to who are eligible to hear the remand on Harvard Way LLC. That matter will be heard on July the 10th, 2025 at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter may be heard. Notice will be provided by the applicant in advance. Counsel for the carrier will be here. We will need executive sessions, Mr. Coyce, for that meeting, as we had proposed for last week's meeting.
Okay. And should we be canceling the May 22nd business
Yep.
meeting? Okay. May I have a motion to cancel the business meeting of May 22nd, 2025?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Flagg.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Committeeman Lapani.
Yes.
Mayor Ciccarelli.
Yes.
Vice Chair Peason.
Affirmative.
Chair Sarachi.
Yes. With that, I will entertain, Mr. Coyce. you won't
Sorry,
let us
Mr.
go.
Chairman, just before the entire public ends up leaving, just please, friendly reminder, we have a survey that's still open for the master plan. You can find it in the back. You could also go to engagehillsboroughNJ.gov, .org. Oh,
Got
.org.
something.
It's one of the dots.
Excuse in the back, Mr. Brook, and can please be quiet till the meeting's over?
Thank you. It's your chance to participate in our master plan, so please do so before it ends on May 18th.
Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion of adjournment.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll see
Aye.
everyone on
Michael.
June 5th. Good night.